Welcome to Converse-ations.
That was a bold choice.
It was a choice. Do I stand by it? No, because I'm sitting. Today we're talking about the Cher show. That's the one in New York. Well, because it's not like the Cher TV show, it's the Cher Broadway show.
The musical, the stage adaptation.
Because it's not called the musical. Don't ask me why.
If I could turn back time, if I could find a way.
So, we were in New York. We said, oh my gosh, the Cher show, let's go see it.
Yeah.
So, let's start with the plot and the framing device.
Okay.
So, it's weird.
Yeah.
It's the same book writer from Jersey Boys. And
but I somehow felt like there was more fourth wall breaking than Jersey Boys. And I
yes.
recognize that technically that's not true. It felt a lot more... Jersey Boys...
Well, let's talk about how they do
Okay,
it. So,
sorry.
first, Cher comes out and starts singing a song. And then says, I want to turn back time. And let's introduce you to me, and me, and me. And, then 3 Chers come out because they're representative of each of the different time periods of her life. Now, this was interesting because it allowed you to take the question of, if you could go back and give advice to your younger self, what would it be? And play that up a lot during the show. Which I think was wonderful. That was something very different that I hadn't seen done in a show.
I was going to say biopic.
Yeah.
Bio show.
But yeah, that'll work. But sometimes it felt very well done.
Yeah.
And very seamless. And sometimes it was very
awkward.
Yes. I wouldn't say that it was terrible because I've seen way worse shows.
It achieved its goals.
Yes. So the plot is the life of Cher.
Yeah. Pretty much front to back.
They did a really good job of cohesively telling the story. There were a lot of changes when it did its out-of-town tryouts to New York. The changes were for the best, I believe, based on what I've seen and heard. This show, this person, Cher, you don't realize... Because you think, when I think of Cher, I think of when I was first introduced to her, which was when Believe came out. That was the first I knew of Cher, was when Believe was released.
Okay.
So, that's Cher when I think of her, is that time period, that time frame, and further. You don't think about, that there's years and years and decades of history behind it. And you knew that because your mom was a huge fan of Cher.
Yeah, my grandmother grew up in about the same area, and she's only a couple of years older than Cher, and wore her hair very similarly. That was very popular, the very long, straight black hair. And my grandmother got stopped by people thinking she was Cher on enough occasions that it wasn't just a random one-off thing. It happened pretty regularly. So there's the dichotomy of young Cher and older Cher, but they're both very present for me. And I listened to Cher music growing up, pre-Believe. So, and I knew about the TV show and that she'd had a show. I just didn't know any details. I remember when Sonny died. Mm-hmm. That was a distinct memory because my mom kind of connected the pieces for me.
That was another moment on stage which was interesting because that was it that again begged the question, if you could say something to him at the time of his passing, what would it have been?
Yeah.
And then that opened up the conversation of a scene of the two of them talking to each other at that moment of he is now
that
passed
snapshot.
kind of thing, which is interesting. Cher lived a very full life. She had she had to work stupid hard.
It's hard because we want to talk past tense, but she is still alive. She has
okay, let's start.
Yeah.
We are speaking in the plot of the show.
Correct. The self-contained plot of the show.
Not about Cher's life, the person that's currently living right now. In the plot of the show, Cher lived a full life, and is continuing to live a full life.
Yeah.
And you get to see how much she was able to accomplish in that amount of time of her lifespan. And she was able to do a TV show, she was able to do shows, she was able to do movies, she was best friends with Meryl Streep for a while. She still is.
Yeah.
You know, there's so many things that she was able to accomplish, and all the struggles that she had to go through to get to that point. Obviously, you can't have the Cher show without the music of Cher. And
Yes.
and you can't have every single Cher song because there's a bajillion of them. That's the official number.
Also, yes.
So they had to pick what were the best songs
And
on
what
top of what
fit
fit
the
the
moments.
correct. Some fit the story plot points of like, this is when I Got You Babe was performed. Let's put that song in
Some
this
of them
spot.
fit chronologically and some of them fit emotionally.
Yes.
Some of the numbers were diegetic, some of the numbers were non-diegetic. It was a very even blend all of the way across, where something like Jersey Boys was just, let's play the songs relatively in order.
Yeah. Yeah, more or less, but yeah, there was some of that in there as well.
Jersey Boys felt a lot more linear.
Yeah. The music was great, of course, because Cher music is wonderful. What I loved about this was I love a good drum. I love a good bass. And
Yeah.
bass beat, not like bass guitar. I mean, the bass guitar is also great. But this was one of the loudest shows from a music standpoint that I think
Yeah.
we've been to.
Yeah.
It had power behind it, which was wonderful.
My favorite element were the costumes.
Really? Because I thought they were extravagant and odd, and I'm just
So,
kidding. Yes, of course.
Bob Mackie has been designing dresses and looks for Cher for decades. And Bob Mackie's worked with a lot of people, but he always comes back to work with Cher. He's quoted as saying, like, you could put Cher in anything, and she'd make it look like $1 million. So not only is Bob Mackie a character in the show, he came in and he designed all of the costumes for the show, whether they were the big show-stopping feather numbers or the more subtle costume moments that called back to Cher's personal history.
Mm-hmm.
And they all read wonderfully, and it gave it a sense of authenticity, that they were either recreations of looks that she had worn in public or something along the lines of what she would have worn. And because it's the same designer, it didn't feel like somebody tried to copy and paste the style. It
was the style.
Was the style.
The lighting for this show was also, it matched the tone of the music. It matched what was going on in the scenes.
There was a lot of projection work.
It felt very
Which was a good
concerty.
call.
This was another weird element, is that it felt very musical and concert.
Yeah, it was kind of a mash of both.
It was a mesh, and which works for this show.
Yeah.
Wouldn't work for a lot of other shows, but it very much worked for this one.
Yeah.
The performances were absolutely outstanding.
Yeah.
Everyone did a great job. Stephanie J. Block was doing an interview, and they said that when they were rehearsing, she'd start walking, and everyone would go, "Oh my God, Cher, that's your walk, that's your walk." She'd go, "No, that's not it. That's not how I walk." They're like, "No, that's exactly it." And she's like, "No, that's not how I walk." So it was interesting to, it doesn't matter what other people see you as walking, because this is her life. She's going to say, "I walk like this."
You're
And
you're not doing a
perceiving.
caricature of her. You're bringing the essence that she wants to put forward.
Yes. So it brought up an entire thing of, it's not necessarily how other people see you, it's how you see yourself, and that was a huge part in
And where is the line between person and fictional character?
Yeah.
Sonny and Cher had a child. Their first child was named Chastity at the time of birth. Later came out as transgender, name changed to Chaz. And never at any point in the musical do they use a pronoun of any kind to refer to Chaz.
And that was interesting. That was really well done.
And I knew
And
the
respectful,
background, so
yeah.
I noticed and was like, oh, look at that. Whereas you didn't know that until I told you about it, and
then
it didn't
was like,
strike you as odd.
Yeah.
They managed to handle it very gracefully without ever erasing anyone's identity or making it like... It was very gracefully.
Yeah, it didn't make anything awkward or anyway. Yeah, we kind of breezed through the performances. They were all amazing.
Yeah.
There's not much more to say about it other than they were incredible. Every single person committed so well. They did a great job.
Yeah.
Now, remember the theater etiquette one that we posted recently? Well, here we go. This was the show that we had
Yeah.
issues with. The audience was a mess. The audience was atrocious.
Yeah.
The
usher team was stretched thin, trying to keep people quiet and cameras away and just general shenanigans.
This was the most disrespectful audience I have ever. We almost walked out of the show.
And it wasn't the show's fault.
And it would no. And it was just it was so irritating.
You were sitting on my right as you are here, and I had an older woman on my left who definitely had some adult beverages, and her dancing and singing and like they're not big seats to begin with, and she's like bouncing up on me and dancing up on me and singing along. I spent the last half of the show with my finger in my ear, like crunched into Eric, just like, how far could I get away from her and still technically be in my seat? She didn't notice at all. I came very close to yelling at her, and I don't do that.
Yeah.
Like, I don't yell at people.
Well, the problem is, I'm so happy that you are enjoying the show. That you the people that were enjoying that show.
The audience was enjoying
I'm
the
glad
show.
that you had way more to drink than I can ever afford in my entire annual budget.
Right.
I am happy that you are loving the music and it's bringing you back to a time of your youth or whatever. I completely understand that. Do not disrespect Cher for putting her life up on stage. And there's this line of like, I'm sure that Cher would be so excited that people are singing along and enjoying the music, but
that's what a concert is for.
and not a Broadway musical. There is a very distinct line. There is a median.
And I thought it
It
was
is
odd
two
because I
lines.
would have expected
It's not dotted.
this audience to be quieter and the Margaritaville audience to be more crazy given the types.
Yes.
But the Margaritaville audience was like, it was an original plot, and they were like, I don't know where it's going, and I don't know when the songs are going to show up. And they had a number where they said, all right, everybody sing along. And it was like, this is the line of, this is where you can sing and this is where you can't sing. Whereas it's Cher's story.
Well,
a lot of the people there remember, this is when that show started to air. I remember when this thing happened.
Which is fine because they could have gone, aww, and then mouthed along or kind of bopped their head or whatever.
But no, they like full force act.
No, I'm like, excuse me, like, no. So, not the most exciting audience event that I've ever been to. I don't know what that phrasing was, but here we are, I'm standing by it.
You're standing by it.
So, I think if you went to see this show, you're going to get an amazing show. It's this incredible story about Cher and her life and her experiences, her artistic talents, what it took and takes to be Cher. But be warned, this might be the worst audience experience. You're paying for an amazing show, and to counterbalance that, you're getting a terrible audience, and that's what's irritating.
Yep.
Because if I had known about the audience, I don't know if I would have seen the show.
Yeah.
And that's what sucks about this. Share this video.
Do you believe in life after love? You haven't seen the last of me.